You're also watching Breakfast Central on News Central. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms at News Central TV and also on Twitter if you're outside Nigeria, Instagram, Facebook. Log on to the website and watch us live on YouTube and so many other platforms. Now, we're taking you to Nigeria at this time. All about the Federal Executive Council, the FEC, has approved the review and upgrade of police salaries personnel by 20%. Wow. This might come as good news. Now, the disclosure was made by the Minister of Police Affairs, Maigari Dingyadi, who said that the review exercise is expected to take effect from January 2022.
Dingyadi further stated that the review is in response to the demands made by EndSARS protesters in 2020 involving primarily improved welfare for police officers. Also, the take-home pay will be enhanced through the duty tour allowance to 6% of the new take-home pay and an approval of 1.12 billion naira for payment of outstanding uninsured benefits for the period of 2013 to 2020.
Now, joining us again this morning, Public Affairs Analyst and Executive Director, Lead Network Africa, Chukwuma Okenwa. Chukwuma, morning to you. Compliments of the season. Good to have you back on the program. We know that President Buhari had promised that the salaries will be upgraded for police, commensurate to the service rendered to further maintain peace in the country. Now, how would you react to this 20% increase in police salaries approved by the Federal Executive Council yesterday? For many in Nigeria, this is great news.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Of course, it is impressive because we know that one of the things that have affected the morale of the boys is poor salary and, of course, incentives, gratuities, unpaid pensions, and, of course, death benefits, where officers, they lose their lives and their wives are just, driven out of the barracks just within a few days. And without anybody concerned that these people actually had their husbands, their fathers, serving the nation of a greater percentage of their lives. So this is good news and a way, something that is going to spur a new wave of motivation for the Nigerian police force, and it's commendable. Howbeit, I think one of the bottlenecks at the moment is not captured in the 2022 budget, but of course, I hope Mr. President initiates a supplementary budget to capture that. And of course, with that, the boys can be happier to police the nation as it ought to be.
All right. Now, okay, well, many believe it is long overdue. I mean, a lot of people are not even excited. I personally am not excited about this because this is not the first time that the president has approved incremental salaries for the Nigerian police force. I mean, the first time it happened was in 2018 where an approval was issued. And we also have 2020, one of the demands by the EndSARS protesters, and that has brought us to where we are at this point. What do you think and what's your own take on this particular timing?
Well, I think one of the things that is unique about this is going to be a response to the nation's involvement, saying we want these to be fixed. We know that the EndSARS protest happened last year, the very first time the nation stood still with one voice, demanding for an end in bad governance, demanding for an end in police brutality, demanding for an end in the way policing is done, ineffective policing. And part of the recommendation was to increase the emoluments of the police force. So this, of course, makes the time right. We know that in October this year, we marked the 1 year EndSARS, celebration. And this coming in a time like this, I'm sure that it's not going to be like playing to the gallery like we saw in time past. Just like when the FG disbanded the SARS, that was not the first time. That was like the fourth in a row. But one of the things that stood out this time, it is coming in response to the collective demands of Nigerians. And you are not going to take that lying down. So that is very important. It's coming in a time like this where the whole nation sees this as something that is prerequisite for the kind of change that we demand in the Nigerian society in terms of effective community policing.
Okay, which is still a long way, if you will agree with me, Chukwuma Okenwa. But now the federal government, through this council, is increasing the salaries for police, 20%, great news. But I really need to ask, how will this really affect the orientation of police personnel going forward in the country? We all know the stories about bribes and monetary gain and exchange between people and police in Nigeria. And how about recruitment? Because it seems that that's looking like it's almost ignored this time, a blind eye. The salaries increase, but what about recruitment and orientation?
Yeah, honestly, I think, of course, in the aspect of recruitment, the Nigerian police have not done so much to ensure that only people that have the right attitude, that have the right track record, are recruited into the police force. Sometimes when you see some people in the force act, you can actually know that there is a problem with the way that people are recruited in the police force. Certainly also when you talk about the issue of orientation, two things come to play. Training play a very great role. The training, the quality of training that is made available has a way of reorienting the police force. And then also the structure. And finance is very important because many of them use the very fact that they are not salaried enough, they do not have enough benefits to justify some of the things that they do. But now that the FG is responding, trying to improve their welfare, many of them that have conscience will begin to look at it that if Nigeria people is responding towards our demand via the federal government, then we are on our own. We need to make certain adjustments. Yes, there are issues of some of them that we still want to continue with the old way. But of course, that is where the police force, the top echelon now need to strengthen some of those codes to ensure that people that get it wrong are brought to book.
Now, Okenwa, you've talked about, the excitement in terms of this increment is one thing to increase, it's another thing to implement. Now, let's even look at the salaries we're collecting initially. For November salaries, it came in late, and the police force, the members of the police force came out crying that this year's salaries, they had not received it as at the 7th and 8th of December of this year. Now, this same administration has come out to advise civil servants and even Nigerian police officers to try and spend their November salary, which came late, to spend it wisely because their December salary may not even come up until January 2022. Should we truly be excited about this increment when implementation of the old salary is still a problem?
Well, in terms of the implementation of the old salaries, like a salary, especially for those that get the monthly cycle, it comes like an unending cycle. Now, what do I mean by that? If, like for many of them, which I'm aware, like for federal staff, maybe you receive your salary 7th of every month, in some cases even 10th, in some cases maybe at the immediate end of the month. If you know that the salary comes 7th of every month, it comes 7th of the next month, it comes 7th, that monthly cycle is still very much respected. And when the federal government say it's coming 2022, that of course is in January. Where I am going to have problem with that is that if it is 6th, the 7th, or if it is not regular on a certain month, because what we are talking about here is 28 to 30 calendar days. And once that is respected, then there is no problem with that. I think the police force should be able to understand that and appreciate the moves of the federal government, which is commendable.
All right, before we go, we know that perhaps the EndSARS and the fallouts perhaps really got people to look at the welfare of police in Nigeria, which is what the Federal Executive Council are doing now. Now, do you see any connection, any nexus between the recently submitted Lagos Judicial Panel investigation report and this increment? Do you see perhaps there's a link here?
I can only infer. Of course, that panel is one that has obtained a lot of things and brought a lot of reviews. And you can see that there could be that deliberate attempt from the FG to appease the Nigerian citizens who already provoked with many things that has happened. And it's not a bad one to want to fix those things that led to some of those things that even made the panel to be of relevance at the first place. Because of course, if there were no police brutality and some of those things Nigeria were complaining, and of course, the alleged death that happened at Lekki Toll Gate, there won't be need for such kind of panel. So it's also not out of place for the government to come up with structures on ground to sustainably address some of those issues that the panel sought to review and to address.
All right, okay. Well, I mean, for an increment that hasn't been reflected in the 2022 budget, it leaves many people wondering if or whether this increment is feasible and will be sustainable in the long run. But thank you so much, Chukwuma Okenwa, Public Affairs Analyst and Executive Director, Lead Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you.